What's going on, guys? Lee here, and today I'm going to be going over the draft that I did with APA Odyssey. Now, I believe this is the 15th gen or season ran by APA, but potentially the first APA Odyssey league. Not sure about that, but either way, it's a 24-man league. Or coach rather. However, there was two draft pools, Draft A and Draft B, with 12 people in each, just because there's not a ton of mons in this draft, for lack of a better term. Either way, I had Draft A. I had pick 6 of 12. Now, this is post-home, so you got hidden abilities that are available to you, or at least we're also running with that. And then you have the likes of, like, I don't know, the Swords of Justice. Kirim would technically be in it, but he's banned. I think Pokemon will have Toxic that didn't have it in this, like in Gen 8 by itself. So a little bit more versatility, but all in all, still a very like Galar, like whatever. Yeah, it's still based pretty heavily at Gen 8. So I had pick 6. The stuff like Libero Cinderace was gone. Galarian Darmanitan, Dragapult, stuff like that, all picked over. There were 2 Pokemon that I like realistically thought I'd be able to pick between one of the 2. I figured one would make it, but not the other. And actually 2, or both of them did, and it was Aegislash and Melmetal. However, I still, I went with Aegislash. This Mon has super good defenses when it wants, super good attack when it wants. You can use it specially, you can use it physically. It gets Sword Stance. You can go. It now has close combat. It's really a fantastic mon. It's super versatile. It's a ghost type, which I think is really powerful in this generation. So yeah, we go Aegislash, and pretty much right away I wanted to complement it with a fairy and/or a Wish Passer, and there's not a ton of them in this like draft pool or this generation in general. And so I was torn between like Clefable and Sylveon. Now, unfortunately, like the pick before me was Sylveon, so I actually just went with Clefable. It's 200 points as well as Aegislash, which we were given 1100 points to pick required 10 mons. So on the average of like a little over 100, like 110 per pick. And so picking 200 mons puts you downhill pretty quickly in the point totals. But either way, Clefable, get a Wish Passer, you get Stealth Rocks, you get an Underwear Wall, you can go Magic Guard. It can technically be offensive with a Calm Mind or Cosmic Power. Just all in all, it's a really good mon. And again, maybe getting Wish Passes to Aegislash would be really good. Slash is resistant to both the Steel and the Poison. You know, everyone knows how a Fairy Dragon Steel Core goes, and pretty much it's the Steel and the Fairy that really form the backbone, besides like Dragon taking fire hits. But yeah, so after those 700 points left, and this was weird. So I ended up with Virizion, taking 120 points. But I did start with Dracavolt in this slot, the Electric Dragon. And we were given 2 free agent picks that would like expire after the draft was done. 2 free agent picks that we could use after the draft, but it would expire in 24 hours. So it's just like a free reset if you messed up on 2 picks. And so mid-draft, I kind of changed plans, and I turned my eye to Virizion, which I got after the draft. Neither here nor there, but there's one other mon that did that, and I'll probably talk about that as well. But either way, we get Virizion. You get a Defiant user, which is really nice. Virizion's more of a specially defensive mon, which I think is really cool, combined with like Clefable, who tends to be physical, defensive-wise. Virizion can be special or physically offensive with like Calm Mind. If it got Aura Sphere, but so much better, but they didn't give it to it. But otherwise, like Close Combat and Leaf Blade. It gives me a Grass type, so also like a Ground Resist, which I wanted. And it gives me a nice speed tier at 108. This generation is slow. After like Dragapult, Barraskewda, and like 3 other mons, you start to struggle to find fast Pokemon that are like solid. And so Virizion just gives me something over 100, which is what I really wanted. But bringing me to my fourth pick was Silvally, kind of a jack of all trades. Multi-attack is now 120 base power, which I think makes it a much bigger physical or like offensive threat. I guess multi-attack is physical, so but you still have the defog and the parting shot options. Silvally can be any type, obviously. 160 points is decently expensive, but I think it can be very, very good just because of how strong multi-attack will be. I mean, think about Earthquake being such a dominant move because it's spammable. Well, you could technically go Silvally Ground, and now you have an even stronger Earthquake. So, just keeping that in mind, I thought Silvally was a good pickup, and I think I did get it. Yeah, I got 4th round. And so, it was still around, so I thought I might as well take it. However, that brought me all the way down to 420 points with 6 picks left. So, I did have to start being pretty frugal with my pickups. And so, the next one was Dottler for 40 points. I wanted Orbeetle because it's a lot faster and it gets U-turn. But Dottler does pretty much everything else. You've got webs, you've got screens, you've got Trick Room. It can still technically do like stored power with Calm Mind or Barrier. It's just slow. It's a slow mon. I think it was like 30 speed. And it's obviously... Oh, it can still recover as well. So it's going to be... I think it can be a really good Eviolite user. Which is kind of why I got it. Just because it can do so much for 40 points. Which, again, after I knocked myself down so many points after the first 4, I thought I should start picking up some 40-pointers. Bringing us to the next pick, which was Morpeko, who Electric Dark Aura Wheel is a fantastic move. If you've seen any of my lives, I've used it a couple times. Morpeko can put in so much work. You've got Electric and Dark Stab, and then you can run Fire Fang. So it can cover pretty much everything with those 3 types alone. Aura Wheel is weird, trying to make it hit the right typing. Because if it's in Hangry mode, it's Dark, and if it's not Hangry mode, it's Electric. But it's a base 110 move, and so it hits really hard. It's got Rapid Spin. It's got Parting Shot. So it's still a pretty useful mon in that regard as well. And this... and Morpeko was the reason I actually switched Dracavolt out for Virizion. Because I did the live, and I fell in love with Morpeko, and I was like, that's it. Dracavolt's going away. I'm putting in Morpeko, so I don't need 2 electric types. And so there you have it. I'm really excited to use Morpeko. It's still really good speed at 97, and then I've got Silvally with 95. So while my speeds are kind of chunked together, I think that's okay in this gen, just because, again, there isn't really much spread or diversification of the speed tiers. And so I still have them, like, spread well. Besides, like, Aegislash and Clefable are 60s. They're shared the same, but they're still good, like, spreads. I got 97, 95, 108, and then I do spread them out a lot better here. Looking at the next one, which I got Dracovish, because I was thinking about getting Wishy-Washy next to Dracavolt. But then since I got Morpeko, I got my electric type, and then I was like, you know what, I can get Dracovish, and there's my water type. And so that switch didn't, change my draft plan too much, which, again, I did it, like, halfway in. Dracovish is an absolute monster. With that Vicious Rend, if you're faster than the opponent, it's base, 170? And it's Strong Jaw boosted, so it's it's more like 220 damage. Like, that's obscene. 75 speed. It has Sand Rush because we have hidden abilities, which obviously then it's not Strong Jaw boosted Vicious Rend, but then you're definitely always faster. And again, just an absolute monster of a Pokemon, and I'm really excited to use it offensively. Gives me another Steel Resist alongside which I think Clefable kind of like needs. So I thought that was kind of nice. And then Dragon's obviously always a cool typing to have. I have like a 4x weakness to water and fire here. So really good mon. Really excited to use it. I haven't had the chance to yet, so we'll see what comes out of that. Next up, we go with Hippopotas, another Eviolite user. but he can also be smooth stone because you can set up the sand for Dracovish. It has surprising defensive stats. Its def is shaky at best, but it has decent defense. Earthquake's always a good spam. It has Stealth Rocks, it has Toxic, it has Whirlwind, it has Slack Off, so it's a versatile mon for the points. I thought it would be nice I always want a ground type. I obviously can use Silvally ground, so Hippopotas is not my only one technically, but I needed one. I thought Sand would be a cool option as well, and it gives me another rock setter besides Clefable, so it's not always stuck in that role. And once again, it was only 60 points, which after Dracovish, taking another little chunk out, and now Hippopotas, I only have 100 points left. So, kinda cruising in on empty, which is obviously the plan when you do a points draft, is to use them all. But next up, we have Rotom Fan. In case you didn't know, Rotoms, all forms, get Nasty Plot in this generation, and so for only 60 points, I thought that was a steal. It gives me a mon that is in the air, so I guess technically Silvally I can use Silvally flying, but then I have a resist to ground in Virizion, and now I have an immunity to ground in Rotom Fan, so even what is it? Even Mold Breaker Pokemon cannot hit Rotom Fan, which I think is nice. It just gives me one absolute immunity, a resist, and then a Pokemon that can either also Dottler resists, but then Virizion or Silvally, excuse me, can also resist or can also be immune, and so it just gives me versatility. 86 speed, again, just kind of patching in those speed tiers. Going from like 75 to 86 to 95 is actually a pretty good spread. And then he's Rotom Fan. I don't know why I'm talking so fast. I apologize. Rotom Fan using Air Slash is like a really good stab, even though it's not that strong, being only 75 base power. But I've got an electric type, which means it's a second electric type, but they don't share any weaknesses, which I think is perfectly fine. I can go with Nasty Plots. I can Volt Switch. Rotom gets Trick. It gets Defog in this because it's post-home. Rotom Fan can be a really interesting mon, and I think for 60 points, it was just worth me getting instead of another Eviolite user. And then finally, because we only have 40 points, get a bottom tier Pokemon, which really I don't think is that bad. Glalie. Again, 40 points. Glalie gets Spikes, which that alone for me was like, alright, I might as well get it, because more Pico can be a rapid spinner. So now I have the opportunity to hazard stack with Glalie on Spikes, Hippopotas or Clefable on Rocks, Dottler on Sticky Webs. It might not be the worst thing in the world. Glalie also gets Freeze Dry. You can use Ice Beam, Double Edge. That's not useful because it's not Mega, so it doesn't have Glaciate. But again, it's a 40 point mon. You can't expect that much out of it. But I think Glalie could legitimately be useful. And so I'm excited to try it out. But yeah, that's my whole team. I think it's a decent group. I don't have a lot of pivot, which I usually like. I mean, I do. Silvally has Parting Shot. Morpeko has probably Volt Switch as well as Parting Shot. Rotom Fan has Volt Switch. But I'm usually a pretty aggressive player, like on the hyper offense variety. But when you have Aegislash and I pick up Clefable, I'm going to have to slow it down a little bit. And I'm okay with, like, I'm willing to learn how to utilize it better, because I don't think I've given it justice to this date with any of my leagues. I have done most of my success with hyper offense. But yeah, so I'm excited for this league. It's the first time I've been in an APA server in general, really, and I'm hoping I at least do well. If my goal ultimately is playoffs, just to, test the waters. I haven't faced pretty much any of the players in this server, and so it's gonna be really interesting to me. I hope you guys stay tuned though, because we're gonna jump right into it. Week 1 starts like in 2 days. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think about the team. I still have 5 free agent picks, so like this isn't obviously the final addition if it doesn't need to be. But I think it's looking pretty good. We'll see what happens. Yeah, stay tuned, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.